All right, brother. another another Tuesday. We're not recording on Monday. We're here on a Tuesday. Obviously, you guys will see this on Wednesday. We're not celebrating a victory.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's 3 out of the last 4 the Chiefs have dropped. Um, not a good look. Not a good look going into the home stretch of the season at all.
Yeah, it's been a tough last month or so for sure, but we're still the 3 seed in the AFC standings as we speak right now. So yeah, it was another long breath Sunday night and Monday morning. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, we're lucky to be Chiefs fans. We really are with the success we've had in the last 5-6 years. But it's been frustrating to watch for sure. But like I said, we're still a 3 seed, man. We still have a chance. If you get in the dance, there's a
Crazy.
chance. We saw the Giants back in whatever year beat the undefeated New England Patriots, and I mean, there's if you're in the dance, you're in the dance, baby. There you got an opportunity. So, um, a lot of people have been writing the season off. You know, we'll come back and we'll make the moves in the off season and we'll be a better team next year. Like, what are you talking about, man? We still have we still have 5 games left, and we still have or 4 games left, and we still got the playoffs, and we still have Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelsey, and like, what are you talking about? So, I'm here for it, but yeah, it's been tough, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not writing us off at all, but like any chance that we're going to come out there and be a different team than what we've been so far, I think you can almost count that out here in mid-December. That doesn't mean we can't win. That doesn't mean we can't compete, once we're in the dance. If you look at the
Yes.
state of the AFC top to bottom, it's not all that great. I don't know if you saw the
Yeah.
news today, but Justin Herbert just got ruled out. We're not going to see Joe Burrow. The Bills technically aren't even in yet. That's the only team that
Yep.
would even give me concern. And with all of our faults throughout that game, we fell 20-17. I mean, the
Yep.
Ravens, this might be their year. We'll see. They've been spotty too. All of these teams have flaws. I think that's the most important part, just to kind of play off of
Yep.
what you were
Yes.
talking about there, Trey. All the teams in the AFC have flaws. And it's just going to be
Yep.
about, you know, which of these flaws is going to rear its ugly head the soonest in the AFC side of things. And then once we get to the Super Bowl, who knows what kind of Mahomes is going to come out on that stage, what kind of Kelsey will be on that stage. Obviously, our defense is playing really well. I mean, I'm definitely not ready to throw the towel in just quite yet on us winning it all. Um, but it's just like it's just been tough pill after tough pill to swallow moving through the season, losing to teams that, on paper were way better than. And I'm not saying that's the case with the Bills necessarily. I think they match up with us really well, actually, even with
Yeah.
their
Right.
injuries. But the Packers, the Broncos, I mean, the Lions, I think, are a solid team, but their flaws are now showing on the NFC side of things. It's just tough. It's just tough to stack those kind of losses up. I mean, if you change 3 of those 5 losses, you know, that I just mentioned, um, it's a little bit more palatable. But just the fact that our flaws have reared its head in the worst moments has been tough, and that's exactly what happened in this game too, which we'll get into all that too.
Absolutely. Yep. And I guess just to jump into it, Dan, here with the kind of going into the game here. Um, I like you said, Chiefs lose 20-17. I guess again the defense only held the opposing team to only 20 points. But we're gonna bring this one into with the Atlas Saloon here. So the Atlas Saloon was built back in the 1800s in downtown Excelsior Springs, old school saloon down there. They've been brewing beer since 2018 now. Keith has 10 beers on tap, and we will be down there for a live event this Sunday, the
Dude,
17th,
so exciting.
for the game. Yeah, it's going to be a blast. And last time, a couple weeks ago when we did one, it was kind of warm up, kind of getting a feel for what the environment was going to be. But I think this one we're doing this weekend is going to be twice as what we what we did here, but probably about 6 weeks ago now for the last live event. So this one's going to be a blast. Make sure you get down there for that live event. Obviously, down at the saloon, there's going to be lots of beer going on, and lots of buddies. Seeing old faces and talking football with guys that we played football with in high school or whatever it may be. So it's going to be a good time. There's been some talks about maybe some barbecue. So hope to see everybody down there. But Dan, bring us in with who your player of the game was for the loss against the Bills on Sunday.
Yeah, man. I think it's hard not to pick a defensive player every single week. And we had some good performances on offense. Like, don't get me wrong, Kelsey, Rashee Rice, they had solid games. But I just can't, with the overall offensive performance and good conscience, give that nod to anyone over there. So I'm going with the opposite end of the cornerback side, the guy who's covering the other field from your player. I'm going with Trent McDuffie. I mean, the guy had another killer game, right? He sacked Josh Allen. He had a pass breakup. He was top 4 in our team in tackling, was all over the field in that regard. Trent McDuffie has been locked down in most of his assignments. Him and L'Jarius Sneed playing really well together, of course, but I got to go with 22 in this game. He's been all over the place. Definitely one of those guys that I feel comfortable with him shadowing a number 1 receiver at any time and knowing that he's capable of making a play. And also being able to play in Spags defense, whether it's dialing up a pressure or a corner blitz or whatever the case is there. He's dynamic, and that really showed in this game for sure with what he was able to do. So I got to go with number 22.
Absolutely, man. Great pick. And just to speak about the guys that we're talking about here, and I have Jerry Sneed for my player of the game. And how many times this season have they gotten a player of the game from the fastest 40, whether it's you or myself? So
Sheesh.
I think at least 3 times you and I have had both of these guys on the slate for player of the game after one game, but mix it up
Yeah.
throughout the whole season. I mean, Trent McDuffie and Jerry Sneed have probably hit, maybe 7 or 8, maybe even 9 times they've been up here for player of the game from the fastest 40 standpoint. So just to speak to the volume of play that we're getting from the secondary, not just these two, but the secondary whole. And these two specifically, Trent McDuffie and Jerry Sneed, have been so consistent throughout the whole year. And they played some dogs too on the other side of the ball and played some really good receivers. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, looking into a diamond on that defense and on the team really is got to be the cornerbacks that we have right now. And to have 2 solid top 10 cornerbacks in the league is tough to get, but that's what we got right now. So, like I said, Jerry Sneed is going to be my player of the game here. He was graded by Pro Football Focus at a 91.7. He was rated the second highest on the Chiefs for the game on Sunday against the Bills. He was the top rated cornerback in the league through the weekend. In week 14, 4 cornerbacks having success while taking on a lot of number 1 guys, like I said, which is a huge deal. And we're in a great spot with our cornerbacks here, where one guy doesn't have to travel with your Devontae Adams or your Justin Jefferson, where those guys can kind of stay on their side, or they can flex around into the slot or whatever it may be and play whatever coverage Spag draws up. So that puts us in a very good position to be successful. So on top of that, he had 7 tackles on Sundays and 3 pass defense deflected in. And so solid game from Jerry Sneed. He just continued to be, and like I said, consistent. I think is a big word for these 2 guys is where they've maybe given up a crossing route or a deep out or whatever it may be, but they really haven't got schooled over the top many times this year. And they've made a lot of great plays. So they've been an anchor point for us while the rest of the defense has played really good football as well, but kind of seen a couple flaws here and there, whether it's the run game or pass rush or whatever it may be. So these guys have been solid all year, man.
And I think even more important to note from this game on Sunday is what we held their wide receivers to, because those are the assignments they're drawing the most. Stephon Diggs didn't get over 25 passing yards in that game, which I think that's like the 4th or 5th number 1 receiver that this duo has faced this season, held them under 50 yards. And Gabe Davis didn't record a single catch. And we all know what he did to us in that 13-second game, torched us for 4 touchdowns. We were able to hold what can be a very dynamic player to nothing at all. So just that nod in itself is big for both of them to hold Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs to 24 total yards through the air is huge.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And Gabe Davis was one of the guys that I called out last week with Brock, saying that to your exact point, he roasted us last year in the playoffs, and that was one of the points I made, to take him on the over on yards because he plays the Chiefs well, and these guys came out and played him great last week or on Sunday.
Right. No, absolutely. It's honestly, man, it's the best. It's the only thing that's gonna make me smile about this team right now. Honestly, like the only thing.
Yeah, yeah. So injury report right now. I'm bringing that one in with Better Homes and Garden. Specifically, my wife Katie Lawrence. She is serving the KC metro area, looking to help families, individuals, whoever it may be. She's going to help you buy, sell, or build your dream home. So right now, the market's kind of in a weird spot. It's up and it's down. It's up and it's down. It's a roller coaster, man. So there's really no bad time to get a house as it stands right now. So she's going to take care of all that nitty gritty work that you don't want to have to do on the back end trying to buy a house. And she's going to make sure you get the best offer you can at the best location and exactly what you're trying to get in a house. So be sure to call my wife, Katie Lawrence, at Better Homes and Garden. You can get all over at 816-868-1920. And she's going to get you taken care of. But as far as the injury report, Dan, nothing really to report. We did see, some struggles in the secondary there, a couple guys going down, but I haven't seen any official word come out of the Chiefs so far on what the standings are for the guys. I just checked it right before we started here and didn't have any word from the Chiefs. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and see where we stand in the middle of the week for week 15.
Yep. Hopefully we get some of those guys back. Like I'd really like to get Drew Tranquil back from that concussion. I'd really like to see Pacheco come back. Not really sure. I mean, it seemed like his injury popped up pretty quickly, and then it was like, boom, he's not playing. So getting those two guys back is going to be a big boost for this stretch for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think Pacheco, I think we can expect him back. I think last week in the middle of the week, Thursday, Friday, expectation was that he was going to play. And then, like you said, it kind of popped up out of nowhere that, hey, Pacheco's out. So that was kind of weird to me. But I don't know how that decision was made. If it was, player option or team decided, hey, we don't necessarily have to have you this week. But I think he's back healthy this week. So, jumping into the game points here with the defense, we've talked a little bit about it already and the success they've had so far this season. Success that they had against the Bills, really quarters 2 through 4, specifically they played a lot of good football. But bring us in with what the defense, some highlight points on the defense from Sunday, Dan.
Yeah, man. So like right off the bat, it almost felt like we were going into another situation like we saw with the Raiders game, with the Packers game. We start off slow, and that's exactly what ended up happening. We gave up 14 points in back-to-back possessions in that first half. Ultimately, we held them to 14 points. So, I mean, you can't be too upset about that when you're going up against a team like the Buffalo Bills going into halftime. The problem was our offense couldn't catch up, which we can touch on that here in a second. But in the second half, they did a really fantastic job holding the Bills to just 6 points. That bend break mentality really came in full force to where they had to be in a position where they were having to kick field goals to get ahead of us or to put any points on the board. And I think a lot of that is due to our ability to force pressure. We were all over Josh Allen. That probably made Snead and McDuffie's job a lot easier. So maybe give the defensive line and the front seven some credit on that. But it seemed like every time Josh Allen was dropping back, he had to break the pocket, break that contain, and scramble a little bit, right? Which he got some stuff going on his legs, but we were still able to sack him 3 times, make contact with him 10 more times. And I think that's huge when it comes to playing a quarterback like that, especially a mobile one like Josh Allen. I mean, this guy's going to be scooting and running in every which direction. And for us to continue to pressure him and get home and come away with some sacks, I think is a big win. Nick Bolton came out there from that injury, didn't miss a beat, played his ass off. Mike Edwards was in on every tackle, it seemed like. I think he racked up double-digit tackles from the safety
Yeah.
position. Him filling in
Yeah.
for
Yep.
Brian Cook, I was expecting that a veteran leader like him to come in and make a contribution, which is what he's been doing up to this point. But man, fantastic stuff from the defense as always. And it all started at the front seven, and it ended with the guys on the back end doing their job and doing it well.
For sure. Yeah, Mike Edwards was a huge step up, or a huge, next guy up mentality there. He played great football, but I will say the Nick Bolton thing, he looked a little slow to me when it comes to the first quarter, maybe even to the second quarter, like he was trying to catch up and resettle his feet. So I think he had a little bit of a 15 to maybe even 30 minutes of gameplay where he had to kind of get reestablished. And this is just from my own eyes watching the game. And I actually mentioned it to my dad as we were watching the game. And Nick Bolton looks just like half step behind. And but I will agree that he finished the game strong and looked great. And so I think
Yeah.
coming into the game this week, he's going to look a lot better than what we saw in the first half. And honestly, his first half is a lot better than a lot of middle linebackers. Full participation. So I think he's going to bounce back and have a hell of a game next week. And really, if he can stay healthy, he's going to be a great center point for us. If we put Drew Tranquil in there as well, I don't know. I'm not sure if that conversation's been had in the organization, what that lineup looks like, but I do know that Drew Tranquil and Nick Bolton both need to be on the field at the same time if they're both healthy. I think that is
Yeah.
that's not a question anymore from the play that we've seen from both of those guys. So, jumping into the offense a little bit here, obviously some struggles as we've seen all year and most recently. But as
Mhm.
we look into it, Rashid Rice and Travis Kelce are going to be your big chunk contributors from the offense, right? And Rashid Rice looks. I mean, his hands. He kind of had a couple drops early on when really nobody else was having some drops. The drops for everybody else kind of started midseason. But Rashid Rice was trying to figure out, rookie, trying to figure out the game, new speed. But his hands are solid now. That catch in the back of the end zone was phenomenal. And Travis Kelce, I think there was a lot of talk about him looking slow over the last 3 weeks, but he looked full speed. He looked healthy. He looked great on Sunday. And so I hope that is going to continue moving forward. And if he has a couple setbacks, I'm not mad about that. The man's 34 years old. And he's absolutely bald for 10 years.
Right.
So that's okay if you're a half step or a step behind for me. I don't think that's dogging on Travis Kelce having that conversation. But look at the rest of the offense. Isaiah Pacheco's not there, trying to figure out the run game, all while the receiving core is just in a complete mayhem right now. So I think there's a lot of mistrust going on in the offense. There's a lot of not being focally accountable, towards mistakes that are being made. I think there's, a lot of holy shit, that guy should have made that catch, but nobody's really saying it, right? And it's just everybody kind of knows there's a lot of passive aggressive tension in the offense is kind of how it feels right now to me.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about the officiating and the play that was probably, at least a top 3 play that I've ever seen before, the lateral from Travis Kelce to Tony, all while Tony was offsides. I don't think anybody can argue that he was offsides, but I think the argument is from just the consistency point that we've seen in officiating so far in the NFL. Really, when it comes down to the Chiefs, and then it comes down to the NFL as a whole, and then not just this year, but I think things really started to progress last year, and now they've just taken full tilt, and it's just disgusting to watch NFL games and the officiating and what's going on in the NFL. And to speak to Andy Reid's point, that it is embarrassing for the NFL, and we've had these conversations on the show in private with our friends, whatever it may be, that the NFL has injected themselves into the games too much, that being the front office and or the officiating. And it comes from both finding running backs from lowering their shoulders into a run, and the inconsistent officiating we've seen throughout the league. I'm not just talking as a
Yeah.
Chiefs fan anymore, man. Like it's been disgusting what we've seen for
Oh yeah.
officiating throughout the league. And we saw it last night, the Miami game. Jalen Waddle clearly lines up offsides last night, and it was not
4
called.
times.
And there was another great report from Dano where he pointed out several times where Tony was offsides in the same game, but it was only called when there was a minute 30 left on the clock in the fourth quarter. Like, what makes that decision? How do you make that decision? I think that's the frustration from the NFL. And the only people who are arguing that that's the right call is people that have gotten their ass kicked by the Chiefs in the last 4 or 5 years, and they've just been waiting for a point to talk about the Chiefs on the decline. So
Right.
they have no reasoning. There's no reasoning for justification on what their point is. They're just happy that the Chiefs are getting shitty calls now, and that's all it really comes down to for me.
Man, I try so hard to be that guy that's like, I'm not going to blame the officials, like, and keep that mindset where it's like, okay, the call definitely negated a play that got us to a point where we were going to win the game, but what put them in that situation? You know what I mean? What were some of the precursor events that got you there? And I think that's a fair way to look at it in this game as well, right? We threw an interception on a promising first drive. We had a turnover on downs at the end of the game there. Like, even with that call, it was only second down. So, right. So there was time to bounce back. There was time to regroup and get it back together. We've seen these guys convert on third and long, fourth and long before. So it's not like it was impossible. We just had to get into field goal range, and we really weren't like so egregiously out of that range that we weren't going to be able to go for a field goal there. So keeping that mindset in place and understanding that the Chiefs ultimately cost themselves this game, like the other 4 losses that we've had this year. Like, I'll firmly hold that position, having some time to think about it and calm down from the actual game itself. I'll maintain that stance. But to talk about the officials here now, because it's like we're the only ones that can criticize them, Mahomes and Reed are going to get fines. Like, we know that's going to happen.
Yep.
But basically, it is a consistency issue. It's like even the penalties that are black and white, like a player's foot is too far over the football, are not called consistently. And it's a major problem. It's honestly been a huge impact on the quality of the game, the quality of the sport, and it's causing fans and players alike to get really, really frustrated with everything. So, I don't know what needs to be done or what can change with that, or if there's like a way to do it. Maybe it's just the nature of the game, right? I don't know. It never seemed like it was this inconsistent to me in years past, and it's just like last year, the year before that, it's built up to this point. I don't know if we just need some more tenured officials. Like, if you look at the seniority on these officials, there's 2 guys that have been doing it for over 10 years, Carl Cheffers being one of them, of course. Other than that, the crews are relatively young across the board and young in tenure. So I don't know. I mean, I can't pinpoint what the exact issue is other than it's just inconsistency across the board. Like, one thing will be a catch one week and not a catch another week. We're not going to call the same holding penalty in the same situation, or whether it's holding on the offensive line, holding with the defensive backs like we saw in the Packers game. We're going to wait until this point, but in the 5 other games where this is occurring, we're not going to call it. Like, people are making highlight reels of wide receivers that are set offsides, and it's not being called. This is the first time in Andy Reid's career that a play was called for offensive offsides. I think that speaks volumes. I think Mahomes and Reid, their frustrations are justifiable to a sense, right? Like, they're clearly frustrated with the result on the field. They're clearly frustrated with the way that they played as a team. They know that the Chiefs are collectively better than what they put out on the field. They know the officiating's been inconsistent. All of that coming to a head at the end of that game. Like, I don't blame Mahomes for having his outbursts on the sideline. I don't blame them for having their post game comments, although they could have maybe toned the emotion down a little bit. Maybe. Other than that, like, I don't really have a huge problem with that. Mahomes' comments to Josh Allen in that situation, and he even came out and said he regretted it on 610, the way he talked to him. Like,
Yep.
obviously Josh Allen's
Yep.
not out there making the calls, right? And so, like, and
Yeah.
of course the media is going to cut that clip up in a way that looks like Mahomes just came over there and started like bitching about the game.
Yeah.
Like, Josh Allen actually
Yep.
asked him what happened there, and Mahomes snapped about it, and like Mahomes even came out and said he regrets those words, like the way he reacted about it to him. So I mean, I'm
Yeah.
glad they were able to show that fire. I hope this is like a turning point for them in some way, shape, or form, where it's like you got to be disciplined at all times. Like, Tony was clearly offsides, regardless of what we think about the inconsistency. Like, that was the bottom line, is that he was offsides, and so just not putting yourself in position to where the inconsistency of the refs can screw you over. But it's
100%.
a problem. At the end of the day, it is a problem.
Yep. 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 We have to control. We can control, and then whatever we can't, we have to move past. But as far as the comments made to Josh Allen, I think there's a little context that's missing there. Is that the relationship that Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes do have, right? And I don't know the extent of it. I'm sure not a lot of others
Yeah.
know the extent of it, but feel free to comment on that. And we don't. And I think that's missing from that situation. And that's one thing the media does really shitty, right? Is that they have the capability and they use it to morph a situation as something it's probably not, right? And which is
Hmm.
okay, but because it's up to the reader, it's up to the listener to read past that bullshit and make their own judgment call. But and same goes for anything, outside of sports as well. But yeah, we have to control what we can control, and anything outside of that, you gotta work through, and it is what it is. But as a fan, I think this is a key opportunity for us as fans, specifically Chiefs fans, because we've faced so much adversity, specifically in the last 4 weeks, where we can take some of our negative energy that we have, because there's a lot of it out there in the Chiefs kingdom right now,
Right.
and maybe gear some of that towards the NFL, not necessarily the individual players. Do they need to make adjustments and get better than what they're doing? Yes, MVS has got to catch the football a little bit better. He has in the last 2 weeks, as a matter of fact. The receiving core as a whole has to do a little bit better. Play calling's got to be a little bit better. But I think we can take some of that energy that we're shuffling and throwing into the Chiefs and address some of the inconsistencies that we have in the NFL and the officiating and how players are getting fined and whatever it may be. The NFL is not all saying, that everything they say is right. We are still the
Right.
fans, and without the fans, the NFL has nothing, right? So, you can use that energy and point it towards Roger Goodell and look for change from him as well. It doesn't have to just come from Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So, something for Chiefs fans to chew on. I don't think that's been a thought in a lot of people's heads, but I think that is worth a thought for everybody. Maybe let's take a break on tweeting at MVS and think about tweeting at Goodell and get that guy fired.
Right. Let's get that freaking train going. Please.
Yeah,
Because I'm
yeah.
like, I'm ready for big change
Yeah,
in
same
the
here, man.
department, at least.
But yeah, bring us in with the AFC landscape there, Dan.
Yeah, man. So we can jump into the AFC side of things. Let's get to what honestly ended up being, all things considered, if the Chiefs had to lose, some of these other teams lost too. This is brought to you by eCoffee. They're your KC local coffee company. Check them out. They got their holiday blend out now, just in time for the holidays. Get you geared up for Christmas. Get some stocking stuffer going. Plenty of great varieties to choose from. Right, the espresso is a staple in our house. We got to have that espresso. We got to have our lattes. You can ask my wife. They're the best if you get some oat milk going with that. So put your order in. KC Local, best to support local businesses around this time of the year, especially www.eeroastcoffee.com. Ravens hold the 1 seed at 10-3. Dolphins 2 seed. They drop a game to the Titans in late fashion on Monday Night Football. They're 9-4.
Yeah.
We're the 3 seed at 8-5. Jags lost that close one as well to the Bengals of all teams at 8-5. Browns improved to 8-5. Steelers 7-6. Colts 7-6. And I mean, just top to bottom in the AFC, it's so freaking close right now. If you're looking at seeds 8, 9, 10, 11, right? It's Texans, Broncos, Bengals, Bills, all at 7-6 outside looking in. Now, I didn't expect the Texans, the Colts, the Steelers, the Broncos to really be in contention this year. So there are some big time surprises, right? Like the fact that the Steelers and Colts are holding on to playoff spots. The Browns I expected to maybe sneak in at the back end of the pack. Bills and Bengals obviously underachieving first half of the season. Chiefs are lucky that we're hanging on right now, and the Broncos are just a game out. I mean, the AFC landscape over the last 5 weeks has shifted drastically, to say the least.
Yeah, and for everybody that's Chiefs fan out there, kind of who has already forgot about the Broncos 5 weeks ago, it's something to keep note of, that if we continue to drop games and Denver continues to win games, that we will lose the AFC West. So, that needs to be on the radar. And it's not just a gimme every year that the Chiefs will win the AFC West, because we are only one game up on the Broncos as it sits right now. So you could say every game is a win, a must-win game going into the last 4 or 5 weeks here. And so, don't sleep on those guys, man. And we could end up sitting at a 6 or a 7 seed real quick if things go south for us. So kind of crazy. Yeah. Crazy thought, man.
I definitely did not expect it to be the Broncos who were on our heels, right? Like the Chargers, if you told me the Chargers were a game or two back, regardless of record at this point in the season, I'd be like, okay, yeah, sure. But the Broncos, man, what a turnaround. They're playing great football the last 6, 7 weeks after starting 1-5. You know what I mean? Like, what a string they've been going on. So you got to give them props. The Chargers, Justin Herbert's out for the year. Brandon Staley, that whole organization's in shambles. There's no other team that I'm worried about in the AFC West, like even the Broncos, to tell you the truth. But, like, you cannot sleep on these games, like you said. We have 4 games. The final 4 quarterbacks we face in the AFC are Aiden O'Connell, Easton Stick, Jake Browning, and who do we play next week? Bailey Zappi. I mean, golly, if we lose one of those games, what the shit?
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you, man. I hope Denver doesn't sneak in, because I do not want to see those guys in January. Do not want to play the Broncos in January.
I kind of want to play them to get a little bit of revenge. Let them come back out to Arrowhead. If we win out and they sneak in, I think it'd be fun.
I think it could be bad news for the Chiefs, man.
Yeah.
I don't like those divisional matchups in January, but be a fun game to go to, but not a fun one to sweat through, that's for sure. And that's exactly what we'd be doing.
Well, knowing our luck would be a snow game too, right?
Yep. But so Dan, to close us out here, again, the 17th this weekend is going to be a live event at the Atlas for pregame. We're going to start about 10 a.m. and we'll run until about 11:30, 11:45. Game starts at noon, so make sure you're down there early to hang out with us. Live, Fastest 40 will be at the Atlas. It's going to be a great environment, and come join us and watch some of the game with us, man.
Hell yeah. It's going to be a freaking blast. I'm pumped. I'm so excited to get back out there.
Yep.
So much fun the last time we did that. Obviously, we want to turn our fortunes around since we lost that last game. Let's get a dub this Sunday when we play the Patriots. No pre-game show necessarily, but we will be talking on the live show about everything going on. So going to be a lot of fun, man. We'll see everybody on Sunday. Come out to the Atlas Saloon in Excelsior Springs. Go Chiefs. Let's bounce back and turn the ship around.
Go Chiefs.
Peace.